Welcome to the Banfield Report of the 29th of July 2011. My name is Max Banfield. Today I'll be discussing the cause of scoliosis, which is more generally known as sideways curvature of the spine. In my previous talks I've mentioned the causes of postural problems and spinal deformities, and they are the pliability of the young spine, nutritional deficiencies which affect the strength of the spine, contagious illnesses which cause nausea, vomiting, loss of appetite and affect nutrition in that manner, the forces on the spine and the duration of those forces. I'll introduce my talk today in the manner that I've described in a previous talk, where a group of men are lined up in a row carrying a jug of beer at arm's length. After about 20 minutes there's only one man remaining and he was declared the winner. It wouldn't be long before he also lowered his arm as a result of the strain. The reason I mentioned that is because it shows how the amount of strain involved in carrying that weight is related to the distance from the general alignment of the spine. This is a picture of a kit bag that was used by students in the past to carry their school books to school. You can see it's quite wide at the base, and that would direct that kit bag out from the student's the general alignment of the student's spine, and cause a certain degree of strain in carrying it. And also it would be carried in an awkward manner. If these students would carry these bags to and from school, some would live across the road from school, wouldn't be very far, wouldn't matter much. Others would live a half hour or an hour from school, half a mile away, for example, and they would be walking for that length of time to and from school many days of the school year. For instance, in primary school up to 7 years, in high school up to 5 years, up to 12 years, regardless of their age or their size or their strength, regardless of whether they had good nutrition or poor nutrition, regardless of whether they had health problems or were going through periods of rapid growth, for example, where the effect on the spine would increase during those times. When carrying the kit bag, the student would tend to walk in this manner, and as a general rule, there are reflexes which tend to counterbalance that effect, and so where the lower spine curves in one direction, the upper spine would tend to curve in the opposite. For example, in this manner, it's quite an awkward posture that results from carrying a kit bag in that manner. Some students would carry their books to school in a satchel, which you see here, it's narrower at the base, would have a similar effect but not to the same extent. That's shown in this illustration from the 1930s, where you can see that it's compared with a student carrying books in a knapsack, where the weight is evenly distributed across both shoulders. There again, however, when carrying a knapsack, the height needs to be determined so that the student is intending to walk with the back arched or stooped in order to carry that weight. And also the weight of the books can influence the effect on the spine. And for example, if a student is studying 6 subjects and they only have homework in one subject, then carrying the books related to that homework and leaving the others behind at school would partially solve that problem. This is an illustration of sideways curvature of the spine, and as you can see, the skin's been removed, it's quite clear in that central diagram. This is another cause of sideways curvature of the spine, and it's due to having one leg shorter than the other. The spinal curvature is prevented by having the height of the shoe adjusted. This is an illustration from the 19th century of a case of sideways curvatures of the spine. You can see the S-shaped feature there that I mentioned earlier. And this is illustration of a tree curved over. It's the old gum tree down at Glenelg in South Australia. That problem could have been prevented in the early stages. Similarly, problems of that sort can be prevented in children in the early stages. The reason I mention these matters is because the aspect of posture and health has been a subject of dispute for over 100 years. One decade it's important, the next decade it's regarded as not having any importance. It's important in one school, not regarded as important in another. And there's similar aspects in history where, for example, there were disputes about whether or not wearing tight-waisted corsets was harmful to a woman's health. Some people said it wasn't, some people said it was. In the 19th century, anatomists sliced open the women's bodies and showed that the internal structures were displaced, and statistics showed that the women who wore the corsets with the narrowest waists on a regular basis would have a much lower life expectancy than loosely clad women. By the early 20th century, there was sufficient information to convince women of these matters, and corsets went out of fashion, and the number of illnesses in the severe forms declined in prevalence. Similar disputes later with regard to cigarette smoking. Some people would say there's no scientific proof that cigarette smoking caused lung cancer, and others would say that they knew someone who was 90 years old who smoked. But closer detailed studies showed that if a person was to smoke a packet of cigarettes every day for 20 or 30 years or more, then there'd be accumulated damage to the lungs, and that would make the development of lung cancer and other lung diseases more likely, and in more general terms, the life expectancy of the smoker was lower than the life expectancy of a non-smoker. And similar here, you've got a situation with disputes about some of the details, but in the overall situation, the cause of these things is known, and preventive measures can be taken in that regard. In the 1990s, I published a book. It was 100 pages a year, became 1,000 pages over about 8 or 9 years. I sold it to school and public libraries. Had numerous discussions with teachers and librarians who would mention these aspects, and so it's these issues are widely known. I have noticed that in the past students would be carrying their books to school in kit bags and satchels, and now when I drive along the roads I notice that they're carrying their books to school in knapsacks. And whether or not that change is attributed to me, nevertheless that change has happened. In my talk there, that will save, for example, will prevent the incidence and severity of sideways curvature of the spine, the health problems associated with it, and will save governments billions of dollars in future healthcare costs. Having said that, the combination of features that I mentioned at the outset of this talk as the cause of postural problems are subject to my copyright. When you add on the specifics of carrying kit bags and satchels and so forth, it completes the picture of causation and gives the overall ideas. Having said that, you're more than welcome to discuss and write about these ideas, but please acknowledge the source of the information. Having said that, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting and informative. My name is Max Banfield, and this has been the Banfield Report of July the 29th, 2011.